Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Amanda. So today's kind of a different spin on what's for dinner. It's birthday edition. So we're actually going to be making 3 days worth of birthday meals. My kids' birthdays are May 2nd, May 4th, and May 5th. They even have the same due date, so it's pretty crazy. I'm lucky they didn't come on the same day. But we have planned different things. They've all got to pick their choices for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and as well as like the sweet item that they want for their birthdays too. So you're gonna get to see all these meal ideas as well as dessert ideas too. Now my kids don't want to be on YouTube and they don't really want me to say their names, so I've decided to refer to them as Marshall, Will, and Holly. Let me know if you get that reference down in the comments below. But let's go ahead and get into these meals. So first up, we have Marshall's birthday on May 2nd, and he just turned 18. So he chose breakfast sandwiches for his breakfast. Now I've already made these on my channel, so I'll have that linked below, but here they are all done, and it's just ham, egg, cheese. My husband actually likes to do scrambled eggs on his instead of a fried egg, but my son and I like the fried eggs on it. Now my daughter, she does not care for eggs too much, so she actually did ham, cheese, avocado, and then some everything but the bagel seasoning. So it's really kind of like a spin on avocado toast, I guess you could say, and it looked really good. So she loves that. That's a good, healthy, quick breakfast too. So, and to make quick work of all those English muffins, definitely broil them in the oven. Such a time saver. So now next for lunch, and I know this seems like a weird combination because both these are breakfast, but he chose sausage and cheese drop biscuits. Now I've made these on my channel before. I made them as muffins though. I'll link that video down below, but I wanted to show y'all how I scoop them now instead of doing muffins. So I just use parchment paper. I scoop them like drop biscuits, and man, so easy on the cleanup. Like, no, because those muffin tins, I'm sure y'all know, are not the easiest things to clean always. So this is so much easier. They turn out delicious, and we love them like this. We often do these for breakfast. Now you're just going to bake these for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Just keep an eye on them. Sometimes we let them go a couple extra minutes, depending on if they're how good they're browning and everything. But these are a great on-the-go type breakfast. We love them. Sometimes I cook up sausage and keep it on hand just to make those. So next up for dinner, he chose 1 pot garlic Parmesan pasta. Now this is actually something my daughter, she found this recipe and she's been making it for a little bit, and he absolutely loves it the way she makes it. So she actually made his dinner for him, which was really sweet. And she's got some butter in there, and then she's just going to saute that garlic up. And this is actually such a neat recipe because the pasta cooks in the pot. So you're only going to dirty the 1 pot. That is the thing. Sometimes when you make pasta, you dirty usually at least a couple of pots. So this is really handy. She's got some chicken broth going in there as well as some milk. She's going to add the pasta and then some seasonings. Now the seasonings that it calls for really is only just, of course, the garlic and then some parsley. She actually likes to add in some additional seasonings. So she adds in some... of course, she does the parsley and then some salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning, and I believe it's pasta sprinkles. So she kind of tries, and that's pasta sprinkles from Penzi. So she just kind of tries to add a little extra additional flavor to it. She seems to be always good with doing that. She really likes to experiment with that, which I encourage for her because it definitely helps you learn how to cook and what flavors kind of meld together when you experiment like that. So, and this really is such a simple, quick meal. Once you get all this in here, you're actually going to bring it to a boil, and then you're going to simmer it for a little bit, and then you're going to stir in your Parmesan. And of course the recipe talks about if it's a little too thick, you can add a little more milk if you need to, and it's super simple. I'll have this recipe linked below for y'all because I do highly recommend it. It's very delicious. Now she uses, I believe, linguine noodles. I think it does call for fettuccine, so I think you could, do even, thin spaghetti. I think you could do all those type of pastas. You just may want to keep an eye on it because they're all going to probably cook a little differently depending on how thin or thick a pasta you choose. Now, while we watch her finish up this pasta, I do just want to say that I would love to have you subscribe and join my YouTube family. If you haven't already, I do all kinds of delicious food content all of the time. My goal is to provide you meal inspiration so that you can have new ideas to feed your family. So I definitely hope you enjoy these videos. And we've got lots of meal inspiration in this video for sure, and some dessert and lunch and all kinds of good stuff. So this, she's just stirring that Parmesan in, getting that all good and incorporated, and here it is plated up. Of course, you know, we sprinkled a little bit of parsley on top, a little bit of Parmesan on top. This is so delicious. I really recommend this recipe. You could always serve it with some sauteed veggies if you'd like, some chicken, shrimp. There's all kinds of ways. It's almost kind of like an Alfredo, but just a little different. Now for dessert, he chose peanut butter cup trifle. And again, this is one I've made on my channel before, so I'm just giving you kind of a quick overview. I'll have that video linked below in the description box. But we had some brownies cubed up, some peanut butter and chocolate pudding type mixture made, and some Cool Whip. So we're just going to layer the brownies on the bottom, half of the chocolate peanut butter pudding mix, and then top that with some Cool Whip. Now, I made this before in a trifle bowl, and it makes a beautiful presentation, but just for like ease, this bowl actually works too, because it's much easier to get in and out of the refrigerator. The other one's kind of heavy, so I use this. That's perfect. If you have one of these big large bowls like this, it will work too really well. And I think you could even layer this in like a 9x13, like a larger pan, maybe like a foil pan, that type of thing, that had high sides too as well, and then do it kind of more like a layer, you know, maybe a single layer and just longer. And we just top it with peanut butter cups, and this is amazing. It's very rich, very decadent, but it's a delicious dessert, and I highly recommend it. Now, he really enjoyed all his meals, and it was so fun for him to get to handpick everything that I made that day, and that my daughter made too. So he had a great day. So next up is Holly's birthday, and she turned 21. I still can't believe that. I was 21 when I had her, so that just blows me away. She's actually not a huge breakfast person, so she ended up choosing to just eat leftovers for breakfast, and this was her lunch. So she wanted to make this 10-minute peanut sauce with rice noodles. Now, I've made a peanut sauce before. It's on my blog. Actually, we did like a Ohana night, kind of themed after Disney, and this was actually a little different one than that one. So I'm not really sure. That's been so long ago. I'm not really sure which one's better, but this one, what she really enjoyed as well. So I've just got some peanut butter, some garlic, soy sauce, sriracha, lemon juice, honey. Actually, we use maple syrup. The recipe does say you can use either. Some water and some sesame oil going in here. And you're just going to blend this up. And surprisingly, you actually don't cook it. You just, once you blend it, you're good to go and use it. Now, you can dress the noodles with it and let the noodles cook just a little longer, kind of to heat that up. But typically, if you're adding it to hot noodles, it's going to heat it up fine, so it'll be fine for you. Now, we are probably one of the few people who have not tried sriracha before, and it was a little spicy for us, so we did try it with I doubled the sauce for this, but we did try it with just 1 tablespoon of sriracha instead of doubling that to 2, and that was fine. Like that, we didn't want to go any further than that, but obviously if you like it really spicy, then you can definitely add the amount it calls for. And again, I'll have this recipe linked below so that y'all can go look at that and make that if you'd like to. Now, we've got this all blended. Just make sure you get it all really smooth. And then here's the rice noodles in the pot. So you're just going to drain those, and we're just going to add that peanut sauce to the noodles and toss that. We actually didn't end up using quite all the peanut sauce. We actually had a little left over. Once I kind of got a lot of it in there, probably about 2/3 of it in there, I asked her, did she want a little more, or was that good? And she felt like that was good, and she'd like to have a little left over for the next day in case she wanted to use it for something else. So she really liked this. She did not want crushed peanuts on it. That's what the recipe says to do. So we added sesame seeds and some parsley just to add a little color. She really enjoyed this, and she's already said she definitely wants to make it again. Now for lunch, she chose creamy chicken enchiladas, and these are kind of, I guess, what you would call like a green sauce enchiladas. So it's made with actually salsa verde instead. And the recipe actually calls for the tortillas to be fried for just a little bit. So I actually thought I'd try that. I typically don't fry tortillas when I do enchiladas. So I thought that we'd see kind of what kind of different flavor that added to it, and texture and that type of thing. We did really like that, but it's probably not something I'll do all the time just because I don't feel like it's the best thing to fry necessarily health-wise. But it wasn't, kind of something. It was her birthday, so I wanted to try something a little different. So I've just got all these on a sheet pan here on paper towels to kind of drain off that excess oil. And we're going to get started on the mixture for the inside of the enchiladas. That's just some cream cheese, some taco seasoning, and some cheese. I use queso quesadilla cheese. And then I've also got some diced onion going in here. You're just going to mix this all together with the chicken and get it all good and incorporated. And this is going to be the filling for the enchiladas. Now, the original recipe did call for pepper jack cheese. Like I said, we decided to use queso quesadilla cheese. And it mentioned chipotle taco seasoning mix, and I just had regular. But so all that worked fine. So if you don't have those type things on hand or want to use a different cheese, I think it'll be just fine for you. So I'm just getting this filling in here and rolling these enchiladas up so I can place them in the pan. Now, this made 12 enchiladas, and I did have just a little bit of the filling left over, and she actually ate that the next day, I think, as a burrito or something like that. So that, definitely when you have a little bits left over like that, you can always use it in something, even if you made you another quick, like, kind of taco with it or something like that. Now, I will say that frying the tortillas really helped them to not break or crack or anything like that. Typically, when I make enchiladas, since I don't fry them, I do get a lot of breakage. I don't really mind that because I'm putting sauce over it and it all tastes fine in the end. But if you don't want your tortillas to crack or break, this would be a good method to use to keep that from happening. Now, while I'm finishing these up, can y'all even believe that I have 3 birthdays in 1 week, pretty much? Well, it was 1 week this time. Sometimes it can be spread out a little bit if, depending on how the calendar lays. But it definitely makes for a bit of craziness. But I'm just glad they didn't come all on the same day on different years, because then they would have to share a birthday. So at least they each have their own day. So I've just got some mild salsa verde that I'm just going to pour over this. It calls for 2 cups. I just love the flavor of the salsa verde, that it has that tanginess that's so, like, I don't know, it's just different than like red salsa. I'm sure you could do red salsa this way too and everything, but oh my goodness, this is so good. I actually made this several years ago and didn't like it because I made my own tomatillo salsa or salsa verde, I guess. I'm not really sure if those are interchangeable, but I just didn't care for it. I don't know. So the jarred one I liked better. I don't know why. And I'm just topping this with some more queso quesadilla cheese. We really like that cheese, by the way. Again, I said in a previous video that we get that at Walmart. It's just a Walmart Great Value brand. It's the only one I think I've really seen that is just the white melting cheese. Like, there is another one I think that Kroger sells that has some orange cheese mixed in with it. I'm not really sure what that flavor is like, so we haven't tried that one yet. But here it is out of the oven, all hot and bubbly. This was so delicious, y'all. I really encourage you to make it if you like enchiladas. We just made some homemade Mexican rice and served that with it. And I'll have that video linked below for the Mexican rice too, because it's a really good recipe as well and makes, I feel like, very close to restaurant quality rice. So here I've got it plated up. She enjoyed these so much. In fact, while I'm doing this voiceover right now, she's in the kitchen making these herself. So she really enjoyed them. So for dessert, she chose lemon blueberry cheesecake bars. And guys, these are so easy. I really encourage you, if you like cheesecake, I've made these 2 or 3 times and I've never messed them up. So I definitely recommend it. It's an easy way to make cheesecake type, goodies. And I'm sure that you could interchange different, fruits and things like that. So I just had some sugar and some brown sugar and melted butter that I'm adding to some graham cracker crumbs. And we're just going to mix that well. And I went ahead and actually lined my pan again with parchment paper so that we could lift it out easily. That is such an awesome trick. I love that. So if y'all aren't doing that, I definitely recommend it for things like bar type desserts and stuff like that. It makes it so easy to get them out of the pan. Now we're just going to get all these pressed in here. It was really handy to use a glove on my hand so that the crumbs didn't stick and I could get them really good and packed in there and make a good crust. These just go into the oven for just a few minutes to be able to kind of get that crust to set up and get ready for you to pour that cheesecake layer on top. And like I said, this is a super easy recipe. Don't be intimidated if you think I can't make cheesecake. This is a very easy recipe. So we've got some cream cheese in the bowl, a couple of eggs, adding in some milk and sugar and some flour. And then we're going to mix all that together really well until it's good and smooth and incorporated well. And then once that gets mixed, we're actually going to then add in some fresh lemon juice as well as the zest of 2 lemons and get that all incorporated well. And then you're going to actually divide your blueberries. So it calls for a pint of blueberries, but you're going to actually take half and you're going to mix them into this batter. And then you're going to take the other half and top them on top so that you get like that pretty blueberry look on top and they're not all just buried in the cheesecake. So that works out really nice. And it's so interesting because my daughter, she used to always like to have a piece when it was hot. But this time, after having them both again, she said that she actually thinks she likes it better cold now. But the blueberries, like, it's so interesting to me how, to me, they almost still taste fresh even after they've baked like that. When you eat them after they've been in the refrigerator, it's just such a good, refreshing, light dessert. Like, I know cheesecake's kind of heavy, but it doesn't, it feels more refreshing, I guess, because it's cold. So it's a good summertime dessert, and I highly recommend it. And like I said, it really is so easy. And because I feel like regular cheesecake is a little intimidating. I don't know. Have y'all ever made cheesecake? I have never made an actual cheesecake by myself. So I did help a friend one time because she makes a lot of them, and so I helped her, and I kind of saw how she did it, but I've just never done it myself. So this is a great substitute, and like I said, I think you could sub in all kinds of different things for the blueberries if you'd like to. So here it is out of the oven, and after it cooled a little bit, we can plate it. And guys, like I said, I highly recommend this. It's so delicious. It really satisfies that cheesecake craving. So next up is Will's birthday. He turned 16. All the kids' birthdays were milestone birthdays this year. That just amazes me. But he chose Dutch baby pancake for his breakfast. I made this here recently, so I'll have that video linked below so that you, if you haven't seen that yet, you can go watch and see how I made that. It's from Chrissy Teigen's cookbook. It is amazing. Like, I had never made one until I made this. It's so fun to make too. For lunch, he chose stovetop macaroni and cheese, and that's just some like battered fish planks that I got. I think it was Gordon's brand. But this is actually the way my mom makes macaroni and cheese. She's always made it this way. I don't really have measurements. I did take a whole box of kind of like the cavatappi noodles, and then I'm adding in probably almost half a jar, not quite, of Cheese Whiz and some butter there. And then I just add milk and also add shredded cheese. This was extra sharp cheddar cheese. And I really eyeball it. It's one of those things that we kind of taste it as we go. So we stir it and incorporate it, taste it, and see if it needs a little more cheese or if it needs a little more milk, if it's not creamy enough, that kind of thing. It's a super quick, easy macaroni and cheese recipe, but you know, it's not fully homemade, obviously, since you use the Cheese Whiz. So it's kind of, I guess, a semi-homemade kind of thing. But it is really good. And here it is, we kind of, just like we like it, all nice and creamy and cheesy. And this was, like I said, his request for lunch. So he's got the fish, and then he's got his macaroni and cheese. And he really loved this. So he loves that macaroni and cheese. And he's really getting to like fish a lot too. He's my pickiest of the three. So he definitely is expanding a little bit on some of the things he likes. So next up is slow cooker chicken ramen. He was so excited about this recipe because he actually found it himself and asked me to make it. And so I've just got 3 chicken breasts in the crock pot on the bottom there. I'm adding some chopped onion. Now, we deviated a little from the recipe. It called for mushrooms, and he didn't want mushrooms in it, but he did want me to add in some carrots and cabbage mix and stuff like that. So I'll do that here in a little bit when it gets a little bit further done. In the recipe called for a half a cup of soy or almond milk. And when reading through some of the comments, a lot of people left the milk out, so we did not put any milk in there at all. But you saw me add in some soy sauce and rice wine vinegar mixture together, some ground ginger, pepper. There's going to be 4 cups of chicken broth added. And also added a little bit of the chicken bouillon powder as well, just to kind of give it a little more flavor, since I use the unsalted chicken broth. That way he had a little bit of that in there too. So once this all gets in here, we're actually going to cook it for a little while. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the chicken, which I did not get footage of, and then add in the coleslaw mix as well as some additional matchstick carrots. He really wanted to add some extra veggies in there, and since he's my picky eater, I'm always like, absolutely, I will add as many veggies as you want. So anytime he asks for more veggies, in fact, after he ate this, he's like, I could use more veggies next time. So I thought that was great because I love seeing him eat veggies. So once you pull that chicken out, you're actually going to slice it up. It had it in slices. You could do it however you want to, but that's just, I guess, what the typical kind of ramen bowl has in it. And then I'm just adding those back in after that. Those veggies kind of cooked for just a few minutes, just to kind of get warm and heated. We didn't want them to lose too much of their crunch or anything like that. And then just add those back in here. You can use all kinds of toppings too for ramen. While I was letting the veggies cook for just a little bit, I was actually boiling his noodles, as well as getting the eggs hard boiled, because he did want some hard boiled eggs to eat with it as well. Again, he's not a kid who usually eats eggs. So this was such a neat meal to see him eat and enjoy so much, because it was new things, some of it was for him. So I always like that. So here it is finished. We added a little bit of sesame seeds, some parsley for color, and he absolutely loved this. He wants me to make it again. He did say the broth was a little sour, and I agree. I tried it. And so I might cut back the rice wine vinegar next time, but other than that, he really enjoyed it. Now this is a super funny title for these. These are cookies that are apparently from the video game Apex Legends, and he told me about these and found the recipe online, and so I made it pretty much like the recipe, but it did call for like a tablespoon of baking soda, and that was a lot to me. It's because in here I actually had a little bit of salt go in, baking soda, and some flour, and I did cut back that baking soda to 1 teaspoon instead of a tablespoon. And I'm just fixing to cream in some softened butter, as well as some brown sugar and some white sugar, and we're just going to get that all mixed together, and then we're going to start adding in our eggs. Now, like I said, this is, again, it's really chocolate chip cookies. It's just the novelty of it coming from that video game, Apex Legends. So he just wanted to try them because of that. So we're going to add our eggs in one at a time and beat well after each one, just to make sure it incorporates well. And then we're going to get to adding our flour. Now it's best to always add your flour in just a little bit at a time. Make sure it mixes in well, and then just keep doing that in batches. It does take just a little bit of extra time, but it helps, number one, from a flour plume from flowing up in the air from all the flour, and also it just makes sure that all the flour gets incorporated equally amongst all the ingredients. Now, I have to say, I always think homemade cookies, you think, oh, that's going to take too long or something like that, but this really does go by pretty quickly to make homemade cookies. And again, it's with like anything else, you control what goes in it, you see all the ingredients. So I feel like anytime we can make homemade items like that, it's always nice, just because we know exactly and can control how much to put in it. Like this recipe, for instance, calls for 2 cups of chocolate chips. That looked like that was going to be a little much, so we cut that back a little bit. We probably did maybe about 1.5 cups. Again, you could add nuts to it if you wanted to. You could, change up the flavor of chip, do butterscotch chips, or, I think they've even got some espresso chips. I want to try those too. Those would be tasty, I bet. So, and of course, typically it's probably a little best to try to stir the chips in versus using the mixer. But this was pretty thick dough, so honestly, I would probably I had a little bit of trouble there, so I'd probably try to use the mixer next time, just to see if I can get that to do it without breaking the chips up. But I've just got a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper that I'm scooping these out on, and those ice cream scoops make such a handy way to make cookies like that and scoop them out, and they're all nice and even. And then these get baked in a 375-degree oven. The recipe said 9 to 11 minutes. I think we had to cook them for just a little longer, so just keep an eye on them. And some people like theirs less done or more done, so just, like I said, keep an eye on them, and you can kind of pull them out when you feel like they're done for you. So here they are. He really enjoyed all his meals. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for all these dinners, lunches, breakfast, desserts, everything for my kids' birthdays. I really wanted to make their days nice and special, and I know they really enjoyed all the different foods they had. Give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, I'd love if you'd subscribe and join my YouTube family. I hope that you have a blessed day wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.